Welcome to the Smarchitect shortcast. I am your host, Arvind Murali. Meet Mary Myers, the Dynamics expert in all things automation and Microsoft Dynamics, 2023 Microsoft MVP, Microsoft Power Platform expert, the Chief Maximizer of WorldMax, and someone who's about upskilling and digitizing processes. Mary, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Fantastic. Mary, I'll start with, what is the history behind Chief Maximizer of WorldMax? Can you maybe share with us your journey and how did you become an expert in all things automation?
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, but I guess that's part of it. So let's see here. I started off, honestly, WorldMax came to me. I went to Power App in a Day class back in maybe 2019. I came from running SMBs, working in so many different industries, and I honestly was used to being really, really good at what I did. And I got into because in my journey in running different companies and different SMBs, I worked full-time, I went to school full-time, and I was a single mom. So
that's a lot of work.
It is, right? But that's really why I have this deep desire, passion for that work. I was working through all these different components. And so you insert Power Apps, Power Automate, right? I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. This is so hard. I learned, I fell deeply, passionately in love with this product. I actually, at the time, I would go and presented every user group possible. I would just build flows and build different things for fun because I was a Business Central consultant mentality. So I just really believed, that's all I can say is I really believe that this is exactly what people needed. It was just really, really early. And that's kind of how everything eventually came to be. And so in that, I call myself the Chief Maximizer because, it's fun. So we're going to have something fun.
Branding side, right? I mean, again, the way I took that title, Mary, I don't know if you intended to do so. For me, automation is a part of maximizing potential, right? Of a human. I'm assuming that's the reason why you started calling yourself the Chief Maximizer, because you're maximizing the human potential, no?
Well, it's so funny that you say that because honestly, I get too caught up. I get so excited in this, but when I left the weekend, so I actually went to New York to this App in a Day class, okay? And I realized I had to come up with a name to explain how excited what I wanted to do with the Power Platform. And that was WorldMax. And what WorldMax represents is I want to help as many people as possible achieve their so in that, to your point, I'm here to help people, whether that be through their careers or their processes, you know what I mean? Just be as much as they can. And I'm so rose-colored Power Platform that I feel like the Power Platform is the way to do it.
Absolutely. That's a great, I always am a believer that until you personally have a pain point, it is very hard for you to adapt anything. I mean, you look at ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
The world of large language models has been in existence for a while, for about 5 to 6 years. But it picked up so much last year because it became a consumer technology last year.
Yeah.
Just like Apple touchscreen. Apple did not invent touchscreen. Apple did not invent phone. But when they put it all together, when they made it a consumer technology, it just boomed. Right? It's that when you are a consumer. So in your real life, you saw the power of automation. And that's when I wouldn't say you became a believer, but that's when you passionately started believing what you're doing. An idea started popping up. How do you now automate processes? Am I right in saying?
Exactly, right? Because here's the thing too now, I love what I do because here's the thing, I sat in the shoes, right? I've sat that I want to share, right? And people are like, I really want to get started in Power Platform in my company. I really want to start with business process. Where do we start? Whose job is the worst, right? And everyone always raises, oh, it's me, right? But literally that's what I say, right? Whose job is the worst? What process is the bane of either your existence or what process and job is the bane of your boss's existence? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, those are the two places to either start. Either help yourself, help me, help you, or help yourself, right?
Powerful set of questions. Yeah, since you mentioned you've been on those shoes, the financier, the marketer, and all of that, let me ask you this. In your journey, right? Maybe can you pick what is the most challenging and what is the most satisfying two different questions, but maybe off your automation journey. A couple of examples to talk about. Yeah, now they can be one and the same. The challenging could be the most satisfying or not. I don't know.
Like project?
Yes, in your journey of automation,
Yeah.
maybe you can give a couple of examples of what is the most challenging and what is the most satisfying part of your job or part of your project.
Yeah, so I would say the most satisfying kind of project-ish, right, that I would say that I worked on was probably what I would call like my first one, right? And what that was is I was a consultant, honestly, like I was a consultant on a job. I didn't know necessarily what an API was hardcore. But now at that point in time, like I was in sales and consulting, right? So I would like sell the job and then help implement it, right? We were all hands on board. And in this, there was an integration that was being done. They didn't want our company to do it; they wanted another company to do it. But the provider, right, the third party tech guy, needed help, and I was like, let's figure this out. I know Business Central. So between him and I and a good friend, if somebody has become a very good friend of mine now, one friend of mine jumped on, taught me all about APIs, Business Central APIs, and Postman. Okay, so he took 5 hours on a Friday to teach me all this stuff. And this guy lives in Germany, so it was like midnight in Germany. He went through and taught me all this stuff. But because of that, I was able to, as a functional consultant, teach a developer for another ISV product how to integrate with Business Central. And so for me, that was like the most satisfying. Like,
understood how this worked. Now you can teach somebody. That's the best way to understand how it worked, right? Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah,
exactly. So I think kind of that seeing how they could all do it, because that was just in Postman, right? Like I was creating workflows. I was creating automated workflows at that point with Power Automate. Guys, I remember showing my buddy over at Microsoft this like little fun thing that I created, right? And he was like, I didn't even know our APIs could do that, So that was pretty exciting. So that was the funnest. Challenging, trial and error. A lot of that's going to come down to scoping and understanding that what you don't know is often the biggest pain or the biggest thing to be worried about, It's running into a project, right? Or it's like when everything's going really well on a project. This has happened on a couple different cases, right? Everything's running really well, and this was a little bit more in the beginning. And then I would get to a part or a concept I didn't know how to do. Point blank, I just didn't know how to do. And that's kind of like an moment, because what are you going to do? You gotta figure this out, right? And that is a challenge, and you literally don't know what to do. But hey, this is a project, and you have a deadline. And not only do you have to, here's the thing too, not only do you have to figure out what you're going to do, that's on your dime. You know what I mean? You are now losing money. Okay, if you don't know what to do, you are losing money. And
life of a consultant, Mary. Life of a consultant. I don't disagree. 100%.
And for me, again, like being a single mom that runs her own company, not to just like play on that, but I can't help but feel this extra level of stress and pressure when I'm essentially now working for free or losing money, because what I always say is like, Uncle Sam, he's not going to come save me, right? Like I'm a one income family, and that income comes all on my back, right? So if it's not coming, we got an issue, and that is a challenge, is really what it comes down to, right? So how did I get through that? Because everyone is going to run into these challenges, right? So honestly, I am thankful for my network that I have built through the community, and being authentic and being like, help me, like who knows these concepts, break it down. You have to stay cool, calm, and collected even though you're freaking out. Identify where the problem is, lean into the community, have a group of people that's going to bring you back up. Sometimes you have to walk away, right? So I guess those, to me, that's kind of like the biggest challenge in the beginning. Now, what have I learned from that? One, scope a lot better. You learn from that. You just learn by experience too, right? So some of that are earlier experiences that you're going to learn from. Two, I've learned great concepts. I've got templates now on different things that are like more challenging, so I can like rinse and repeat those out quicker. And
faster, better, cheaper as you start learning, right? Yeah. Oh yeah.
Exactly. Absolutely. Why are we not going to automate automation?
Exactly.
And,
nice.
Well, and you learn you learn to say no, right? You get burned, and you know when to not say yes.
I
Can't
do
say yes to
certainly
everything.
appreciate the community, right? And I think that the good news is you are in a bigger community. Microsoft is a well-known entity across the world. So you've got a
Yeah,
bigger community to focus on, to ask questions that you may not know that somebody else out there in the world has done. So I
yeah,
guess your access is pretty phenomenal. And I know Mary is very popular in the Power Platform and the Power Automate network. So you ask it, and thou shall get the answer, so to speak. Listen, I want to ask you something. When I asked you the challenging question, something popped up in my head, and tell me if this is something you're facing.
okay.
Everybody in this automation space are constantly addressing the human in the loop or lack of thereof issue. When you're automating jobs, most of the time people fear, or the people who have been in the job for a long time, they fear for their job.
Yeah,
My assumption is you've heard this over and over.
yeah,
How do you address those challenges? I know you may not be directly accountable for those people, but I'm sure
right.
the CEO you're talking to asks you the question. How do you answer them? Do you have any point of view on that?
I do. I do. I really love this question,
Yeah.
honestly, and this concept. The perspective that I like to bring with this change management conversation is I'm so excited that we're going to go ahead and automate the mundane parts of this
Sure.
task. Now we can elevate you and empower you to do what you're more capable of.
Fine. Makes
Exactly. Like, let's talk about like customer service, for example, right? This is one thing that I say, like, do we really need customer service people to be entering in sales orders? Like integrations, let's talk about, so we have an e-commerce site and we have our, ERP site. And so
Yeah.
somebody's whole job is
Yeah.
to be like, okay, let's print all of these orders. We now have a piece of paper. Cool.
Yeah.
So also those people, they're doing a lot more on the typing, right? That's just some days they're good like that. Some days they're in the trenches. Nobody knows those customers' needs, personal lives, future goals, everything more than those customer sales reps, right? Because they're on the phone with them, they're dealing the day-to-day stuff with them while they're chit-chatting, getting those orders to get with, right? So
100%. 100%.
integrate that. Go sell. Go be a salesperson. Do you want to make sales commission? Do you want to enter
What you're
that
hired
order?
for, instead of taking notes and just typing stuff. 100%.
Yeah, yeah.
100%.
And that's what I love too, because people don't normally see themselves, right? They got into that role and they thought, oh, this is really good, right? Again, this is what I love about technology and the Power Platform. How many people got into this role and thought, man, this is it. This is what I thought everything was going to be, because before here I worked at McDonald's. So now having this CSR role is great. I've got benefits. This is great. I'm going to sit here real happy, right?
Yeah.
So that, again, these are the people, let's automate that. You're going to affect my money. I'm going to be upset. Or are we going to give you an opportunity to make more money? So that's the way that I look at automation. You know what I mean? Is it's not taking somebody's job away. It's like, let's empower. And if you can't get on board to
Yeah.
do something more with your time,
Yeah.
that's on you. That's a you problem.
That's shame on you. Yeah. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong. You do have an upskilling program as well, I believe, that you're teaching these people. Hey, you should be more worried about, am I able to adapt and adopt to this modern world where automation is a part of, AI is a part of, instead of just sitting back and taking notes, which is gone 25, 30 years ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. You've got a program that actually methodologically upskills the people, right?
A little bit, yes and no. So various aspects of this. Roots, going back to WorldMax roots, one of
Yeah.
the first things I did in a kind of quote unquote WorldMax name was open up two different tech centers. One of them in like a lower income area, but the first one was at a women's shelter. Okay.
Wow.
So
Okay.
in this, giving them computers and kind of skill sets, right? Or this was the goal, to give them skill sets to upskill, right?
Yeah.
So I do a lot of nonprofit work like that, right? So this was several years ago, kind of like moved on, since then. But right now, currently, I'm involved with a program called TechFloyd. Again, these are people that are like career changers, and they want to. They're either career changers or they've moved here from another country and they had a career in tech in their other country, but have a hard time reestablishing this here, trying to re-upskill. So this is a very several month long course where I train people there, Power Platform skills, and then we go to conferences. I have so much fun. I love this group of people. We go to the conferences and I'm like, let me show you how we network, because at the end of the day, you need a job. So we work with teaching them like soft skills. So nothing truly official, just like this huge like heart and passion that I have on like grassroots that I'll do for as far as like personal, like kind of upskilling in the community aspect that way. But as far as from a technical skilling up, side of it, my company does provide training services, for power automating kind of, those training services when people want to take their employees or themselves to the next level. Because honestly, I spent so much time training so many different type of people. So that's what I love about my training courses, right? That I'm like, I understand how to work with people that come from zero tech background to tons of tech background.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to flex with both, right?
So to be honest with you, kudos to you. I've been on one of those training programs as well. You attended one of the user, or I attended one of your user groups. The thing that I noticed, Mary, is there is a good combination of tech skills. So you talk about Power Automate, Power App, and how that technically works. But there's also the business process skills. So you take a particular workflow, a business process, you break it down to chunks, and then you talk about how do you automate this one, and how do you think about the workflow as a whole. So what I liked about that, how you upskilled us, was your ability to speak at a higher level, at a business process level, and then kind of break it down to more of a technical chunks, where at that point somebody a little bit more technical like me can take those pieces and start executing them. Somebody who's more business focused can understand all the steps and how that correlates to automation. So kudos to you. I really like your training program. I've been a part of those as well. So I'm assuming, jumping into the Dynamics user group, you go around the US at this point. I don't know about the world, but you do this.
I do.
I would assume so. How is that going? I mean, you've been a part of the Microsoft Dynamics user group. Talk a little bit about that.
I love being in the community. I always say, like, I'm a product of the people to begin with, or like of the user group community. It is my life. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about it. And it's been really, really great being able to dive down into it more. It's kind of this approach I've taken maybe for about the last 6 months, almost 6 months. We all love conferences. Conferences are great, they're like a week long, and some would argue they're the best part of the job, right? And it's not just the fun partying and partner parties and all of that. The reason we love it, it's this ability to be able to connect with people, right? And have these like one-on-one connections. Like, you can do more in person than you can do, you know what I mean? I can do more in person in like 5 minutes than I can do, you know what I mean, in a couple different meetings. So
we're all social animals. We like to talk to people. We like to connect with people face to face. 100%.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to just kind of like increase my time to be able to do that, right? And then also I get overwhelmed at conferences. You've got thousands and thousands of people, and I usually have a couple different, sessions that I have to give, and then I get FOMO over so many people to like meet and talk with. You cannot meet to everyone. Like, I feel like a terrible used car salesman sometimes. I'm like, yeah, we'll meet up, knowing I'm not gonna have time to meet up with any, like, half of these people, right? And I've
never heard anybody give me the analogy of meeting and talking to people to a used car salesman. That is incredible. That is I'm so sorry you feel that way. It is my belief is it's not that way. Meeting with you allowed me to understand the space better and the thought process better. You did not sound like a used car salesman to me.
But what I love about these user groups and being able to travel, to the different ones is, I get to have more conversations. That person that I had to do before, now we get to sit down and have an actual conversation, right? Like, now we're friends. Now we can have, these conversations. And what I find too is that, like, this has been a fun journey. I don't feel like there's tons of people that are really specifically extending Dynamics with the Power Platform, right? People are like, how do you position yourself? I don't know. I'm still figuring it out, but with that, it's like the conversation has to be had multiple times, right? So I just love that opportunity to be able to have that touch point, with people. And they're short, quick, usually events, instead of being like gone a whole week, I can be gone like just like maybe sometimes it's just a night, sometimes it's fly in and fly back, right? So it's exciting. We're racking up those miles, and I would highly recommend getting yourself a good travel credit card, because
Yes.
It will have an ROI when you have lounge access and then have free coffee, free snacks, free that type of stuff, and then you're not spending money on airport food. So there's
Spoken like a true traveler. Yes, I agree with. Very nice. Look, no podcast wraps up without talking about AI. I'm pretty sure in your space, Gen AI is very tightly integrated with automation. One, how do you keep yourself abreast on what's going on in the world of Gen AI? And then two, how does that impact your strategy in delivering to your clients?
Great question. So how do I stay with all of the changing AI space?
I mean, look at Copilot, right? So Microsoft Copilot is everywhere and everything now.
Yeah.
So you're in the middle of that. What do you think of that?
So I think one thing is being a Microsoft MVP over the last 3 years. You get some insight into some different things like ahead of time, so you're able to kind of have some roadmaps ahead of time. So I would say one of that's kind of helpful to know, like, what thought processes should I be thinking towards and what should I not be, thinking towards type of thing. So that's a benefit of it. And then also, like, I don't have a life, so I'm just a constant scroller. That's what I love about like curating, what I'll call curating my algorithm, right? Whether honestly it be on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, right? They're all running like the same thing. So how do you stay up to date really soon? Like, you follow those things on my social, I follow on social media, right? Regardless of the platform, because then I'm going to see a bunch of different perspectives, right? I think that's something that's really interesting as well, is to not just have like one perspective, but to have a well-rounded perspective of what's going on and hear different people. So podcasts, scrolling social media, that's really how I try to like stay up to date, not necessarily just reading like white papers and that type of stuff. And then user groups as well, right? So I host a Tampa user group tomorrow. We're going to talk about all the Wave 1 updates, right? So to me, it's about how do you stay up to date, find ways to consume the content in a smarter, not harder way, right? Passive type of listening approaches or things that are fun.
So since you mentioned podcasts, I'm going to ask you that. Any particular one you recommend that, if somebody wants to get into the space, books, podcasts, YouTube videos, how do they get it? Maybe a little bit of insights for my listeners here.
Into the AI space or dynamic space?
Well, dynamics and automation space, right? That's you're the subject matter there. Yeah.
My go-to for podcasts, the first podcast that I listened when I wanted to understand the Microsoft business applications ecosystem as a whole, is to go find Mark Smith. Okay. Mark Smith, he's NZ365 guy. He's got a podcast. He's got a couple different podcasts on business applications. Him and Steve Mordew used to do one together. I think that they don't anymore, and Mark just has a couple different ones. But what's really great about that is he has one also just like biz apps. He has one also on MVPs. And so he, hosts these different people, but it's a really great way to find out what the subject matter leading expert industry people, who they are, how they got to what they're doing, what they think is important, and it's looking at this ecosystem as a whole, right? So I would say that was one of my like haphazard, I didn't mean to, I just fell into that, but I think that was like.
Yeah, so I'll put a link to this podcast as well, when we're posting this, so that we can, you all can go and check it out. Mary, last time when we talked, you are a big golf player, if I remember correctly. So I'm assuming that's your spare time, if at all you have one.
That's all I do. I just work in golf. My business coach, she actually mandates that I schedule tea times on Friday afternoon, because she was like, I don't have to. She's like, I know that you'll be successful. Like, that's not the issue. My worry about you is burning out. So I need you to have golf constantly. No, I love golf. It's the only thing that takes my mind away from, all of the things. Plus, it has taught me a lot of humility. Stories. It's going to be just normal day, every day. Like, this is Mary, right? It's unfiltered Mary. That's what I have to say. Also, a lot of events and links, right? Just kind of like learning concept. That's what you'll find on LinkedIn, and then across on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter, right? You'll find me at Power Platform Partner is the handle that you can find me at on those different ones, you're going to see 5 days a week of content, right? So that's going to be video content 5 days a week. So depending on whatever way that you like to learn or you want to follow me, there are plenty of options to find me.
I will post the links in the podcast as well, so people can get to know you better. Mary,
Great.
thank you. Is there any final words of wisdom that you want to share with my audience?
Just keep dreaming. That's what I would have to say. Like always keep believing in yourself, and always keep dreaming, especially when like automation, like it's not going to be perfect the first time, right? It's like a process. So just keep going. So
thank you, Mary. Really enjoyed the conversation here. Keep dreaming, she says, as a last word. So Mary, appreciate your time here. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you.